In this video, quickly, I want to show you how this syntax here works. Actually, this question mark here, these two pipelines, and sometimes you may see an exclamation mark over here. So we want to know with this example how they work together. But first, let me walk you through the process here we have to see what's going on. So let me show you the application here. This is the application I'm working on. It's a SaaS product for basically comparing CV with job descriptions. Doesn't matter. But what we have here is that in the URL there is a slug, and based on this slug, we actually fetch the data from backend. So here we get slug here with params, and then using a backend API, we can get the data from database. So if there is a record with this slug, we can have the data. Otherwise, there is no data. And we put the data in user CV session state over here. And then we have a component called file uploader. And basically with this file uploader, we can pass to initial values, initial URL, and initial name, which are actually the name for this PDF here and also the link to that PDF. This file uploader, if we pass these two initial params, it will be like this. Otherwise, if we, for instance, have a fake slug in the URL, you can see that there is no data in the database with this slug. So we get an empty uploading box. So now here, I want to explain how this syntax here works, because it's really common practice, and when you want to do web development with Next.js and JavaScript, TypeScript, and React.js, there's a chance that you're gonna use this for many times because we want to have components with initial parameters. So if I remove these extra symbols here, you can see that I get an error. And the problem is that it says a user CV session is possibly undefined. So now the solution here is that with a question mark over here, this question mark helps us that if the state here we have user CV session is undefined, that way it just ignores it and return undefined. And because if it's undefined and if you're looking for CV path there, there's going to be a problem because it can't access a property of undefined state. So that's a problem. And with question mark, we say that if it's undefined, just return undefined. But now there is another problem with that. So if we actually return undefined, the initial URL, if we take a look inside this file uploader component, here you can see that the type, the interface here we have is a string for initial URL. So it says that it should be always string. So we can't pass undefined because it should be always URL. So we get an error from TypeScript. One solution for that is just we add exclamation mark at the end, and the error will go away. Now let's try with this to see if it actually works here. So I'm gonna run my project again. Close the old tabs. Just click one of these, and here you can see that I get an error here. So now what I'm curious to know is that what's going on here. So I want to do the debugging and just close this terminal and then run debugging here. If you want to know how I'm debugging here, I have another video there. I show you how you can debug your Next.js project with VS Code. So now if I go to this link and try one more time, Okay, we get the error even before it gets here. Let me put another breakpoint here and just refresh it. So now, okay, now if I try to go to the next breakpoint, okay, so here if we take a look at user CV session, user, it's undefined as you see, and it's obvious. The problem is that for the first time when it tries to render this component, the fetching here hasn't happened yet. So it first actually renders this component, and thereafter that it tries to fetch the data over here. So I'm not sure if I can see it here, but in the network, let's try one more time. I want to make sure. So when it's here, you can see that in the network there is no request, there is no API call here. So that's a problem here. Even before we call the API here, we fetch the data, it tries to render this component. So that's a problem. And now even having exclamation mark here doesn't work, because even the warning goes away, the error is still there, the problem is still there, and it returns undefined still. So the solution for that is just use two pipelines and then empty string here. So basically with two pipelines we can say that if it's undefined, use this as the default value, and that way we can have a default value. So if I try one more time, try to render it, and now here in user CV it's still undefined, but there should be no problem. And if I continue the program, you can see that it works perfectly. Now let's try one more time without any debugging. So I can just run. And if I refresh the page, but if I try to remove this and use exclamation mark here, okay, and try to refresh again, we get an error. So that's the problem. So I pretty much explained question mark, exclamation mark, and the default value. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching till now. Please subscribe to my channel for more upcoming videos. Thank you. Bye bye.